Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me from all the way out in Colorado, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause from Mr. Sejohn.
Hey everybody. What am I supposed to Colorado?
Oh shit, Utah. Yeah, Utah.
Yes,
If I were the
Utah.
kind of person who was like, we'll take it back from one, I was excited because it's officially been a year since you've been recording from Utah. And that's worth celebrating.
Yeah, a whole year since I've gotten out here and we started doing this, and it's weird. I have redone my office like 3 times since we got here, and I'm sitting in the midst of me redoing it once again.
That's good. So you do it quarterly. That's smart. You know, what's that? Complacency is the mind killer. Is that a phrase?
No, I believe fear is the mind killer, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
uh,
So the opposite of complacency. That kills the mind. What does complacency then do? Mind the kill.
the
And
sure.
anywho,
Mind the gap.
mind the gap. Welcome
There you go.
to the Say Report and a year of recording in Utah, but it's a more important occasion. It is a very important day. It's Adam Sandler's birthday.
Happy birthday, Adam Sandler! Wow, how and why did this information come to light?
Well, so I was on Twitter and he's like, my wife got me a hat. I don't follow Adam Sandler on Twitter. Not that I wouldn't follow Adam Sandler on Twitter, but it just showed up in my Twitter feed, him being like, my wife got me a hat and it was a happy birthday hat. And that would have been the end of it. I wouldn't have even like thought it was real if a couple of weeks back, I started a new thesis statement that I am doing my goddamnedest to prove. And it actually
And
turns out that I started it a week before because I complained about Juno and indie movies. But
Mhm.
2007, last great golden year for Hollywood.
Okay,
So
yeah, right.
there was a little movie that came out in 2007, and I got home today and I put on Bad News Bears from 1976, bawled my eyes out because it's such a good movie. Like, God, the first one is super good. Also, I like Richard Linklater's remake in 2006, but that first one, that's a really good movie. And I feel like people don't remember
Who's the Billy Bob Thornton in the first one? It's Walter
It's
Matthau,
Walter
right?
Matthau.
Yeah, man.
Jackie Earl
Walter
Haley
Matthau?
plays like the badass kid who like becomes their really good player, and Tatum O'Neal as the girl pitcher, Amanda.
It's very good.
Like it's crazy. You watch that movie, like seeing Jackie Earl Haley as a little baby boy.
But now you got me thinking about that. Like, what's this kid's problem? Oh, he's an asshole, and he like gets into fights. Or what's this kid's problem? Oh, he shits himself. What's this kid's problem? It's a girl.
Well, actually, the fact is he gets the girl because she had such an affinity for baseball, but they wouldn't let her play. So then, when he's given the chance to create a team of the misfits, he's like, "I need you on the team," and they can't say no to me because they chose me to coach this team of misfits. I didn't see it from the beginning, though. I saw it from the scene where Tatum O'Neal plays Jackie Earl Haley, Amanda and Kelly play each other in air hockey, and if she wins, he has to join the Bad News Bears, and if she wins, he joins. He wins, he gets to take her out on a date, because apparently that was just like the standard movie bet pre 9/11. Like, I feel like that was when that ended.
The playing for dates trope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and she loses, and then she has to go on a date with him, and then I don't know, it's a good movie, I like it. But then, as if the skies opened up upon me to prove my thesis about 2007 being the best year, the last great golden year for Hollywood, I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry came on. So I'm like, I'm gonna watch I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry because 2007.
Man, Tila Tequila's greatest film.
Tila Tequila's greatest film. I was surprised looking at the credits when I'm like, oh wow, Tila Tequila. I remember you. You existed for a minute. Long
They were
enough
like,
to be a
we
hooter girl in this movie.
Yeah, they were like, we need somebody that is frequently out in her underwear, willing to walk around in the movie in her underwear and make out with all of the other girls. And like, there was that weird hot second where she had that reality TV show on MTV about basically her just running around in her underwear making out with hot girls. So they like basically playing to type when they brought her in.
Gosh, and that
Man.
instantly dated that movie for me. And also,
Yes.
like, that movie is got a lot of problems. I'm not gonna be the person here saying that I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry doesn't have a lot of problems. Like, it tries to, like,
Yes.
be woke about homosexuality and, like, gay rights while, like, parading out some of the worst gay stereotypes
I
in
mean,
cinema history.
it is the embodiment of the accepting dad. You know what I mean?
I
Like
do.
that, the old man is just like, my son came out as gay and I'm proud. I don't care how many hits. Whoa, okay, dad. It's like, calm the fuck down. But that is the embodiment of that film for me, basically.
Yeah, there's also the fact that I had it and it just escaped from me. Oh, the worst Asian stereotype character since Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
I don't even remember. I mean,
Rob
like, I'll be
Schneider.
honest, I have not watched
Like,
it.
all right, so like
Rob
my
Schneider's
question
playing
is,
an Asian stereotype in that
he's a
movie?
Canadian Asian who runs the wedding chapel. And he's got the big glasses, like the stereotypical.
I'm not laughing because
I
it's
know.
dark funny. I'm laughing because I can't believe that happened in the world, and we were like okay with it.
And then, like, we're not in a year before. I believe it was a year before. I'm trying to remember when 8 Crazy Nights came out. He played the owner of the Chinese restaurant as well.
That is Rob Schneider as well.
Yeah. So it's just like
God.
that became his role in the Adam Sandler verse for a while. But the real reason, first of all, I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, for all of the problems that it has, there's some really nice moments in that movie, supporting my whole 2007 last golden year of Hollywood thesis, right? So I'm finding is evidence to support it, because Dreamgirls, fucking hate Dreamgirls, 2006, so they made up for it in 2007 with Hairspray, but yeah, but in it they have to do that green card thing where they're going to get tested, so they take part in a pride parade and they ask each other their birthdays, and Kevin James gives his birthday, and then Adam Sandler says September 9th. And I'm like, oh, so it's Adam Sandler's birthday. Today is Adam Sandler's birthday. Like,
Wow,
it
that was a
all
long
came
way to
together.
go. Get to that.
It was, I have a beautiful mind, Sejohn.
Oh man.
No, I wanted to talk about Chuck and Larry, but like, there's some problems. Also, it's Ving Rhames. That's the guy. I think you had mentioned that it was Terry Crews the last time we talked
It's
about it.
not Terry Crews in the shower?
Oh, no,
Ving
it's
Rhames?
Ving Rhames.
Is it Michael Clark Duncan?
No, it's
Are
Ving
we both
Rhames. Don't do that. It's Ving Rhames, and he's so good in that movie, like really good performances. And it's like I don't know, I enjoyed watching it again, and it's also the first time I can remember. Anyone can correct me if I'm wrong. That Dan Aykroyd showed up in an Adam Sandler movie as Captain Phineas T. Tucker.
Oh, that's right, because we were all in love with firefighters after 9/11. I mean, not that we shouldn't have been, but every movie, especially made by a New Yorker, had to involve a firefighter plotline. And so this was Adam Sandler's, where him and Kevin James are buddy firefighters. I forgot that was the whole like B plot of that movie.
Oh, also Kevin James's brother is there. It made me want to watch Kevin Can Wait again. Do you remember Kevin Can Wait? The show that was awful?
Oh man, I completely forgot about that one because I was just about to say it made me want to watch King of Queens. And then like,
oh, don't worry. In
I
the
love
second
that.
season, Kevin Can Wait became King of Queens when they killed off his wife and made him open a detective agency with Leia Remini.
Yeah, is that not a thing anymore? Did that get kaput?
That show got canceled last year. But it made me like I liked that show. It had some stuff working for it. Before, I don't know. Leia Remini guest starred in an episode, and they're like, "Oh, these were our biggest numbers yet. Kill his wife. Kill his wife."
Oh my god.
He could have still had a wife. You didn't need to kill his wife.
I know. They could have just been partners in the detective agency. Wouldn't have that been amazing?
They
if
were
in a
just
show
partners
together?
in the detective agency. There was no romantic subplot at all.
Then why kill the wife? Oh my god. Maybe that's the biggest mystery of all.
Ooh. Monkey Fist Security on the case.
That could not have been their name. Was
That
that their
was the
name?
name of their company.
What is the pun there?
That because it's like a monkey and a fist. That's
We'll
literally
solve
what
your
Kevin
problem, but
James
you won't be
says.
happy about the results.
God, that show. And yet right now, like fueled from the fumes of I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, I would watch that whole series if it were available
So,
somewhere to watch.
so I'm having a real hard time because I know that Kevin James has a brother that looks like him, but it is so hard for me to not just picture Patton Oswalt.
Right now, and I get that. And he kind of looks like Patton Oswalt, but a little bit taller and a little bit wider.
Nice.
And he got
Yeah,
a
yeah,
beard.
but I was a big fan. You know, I still am a big Kevin James fan. I've got no issue
Yeah,
with
why
like
would you?
anything.
Like, it's the fact that
We
he.
actually watched Hitch the other day, and he is like an anchor in that film. Like I don't think Will Smith could play the zany, almost Jim Carrey-esque character that he does in that movie if he didn't have somebody anchoring him like Kevin James.
Yeah, Kevin James is an excellent anchor
Hmm.
in like no uncertain terms. Like, even in
Yeah.
Pixels, where he
Yeah.
plays the president.
President of the United States. It's such a weird reveal because that's the other thing is they don't reveal it until like 15 minutes into the movie after they've already been out for like wings somewhere, and then like, oh, by the way, he's the president. It's a weird movie.
Yeah, so
Oh
I like
man.
it though. What are you gonna do? But yeah, so that's what I did, and I've been doing a lot of other stuff too that I'm very excited to talk about. But Sejohn, what have you been up to?
Well, I noticed that we didn't get to talk about this last week because I actually started it when it came out, but I've been watching and rewatching Dark Crystal over and over and over again. The new miniseries Age of Resistance came out about a week and a half ago on Netflix, and it's been gorgeous. It's been consuming every moment of for me at work, at home. I have it on in front of me when I'm cleaning. I had it on. It's a beautiful, beautiful show. Have you do you have any attachment to Dark Crystal? Like, do you have any desire to watch it? Or you like where are you on this?
So here's my dark. I have two Dark Crystal memories. I have two of them. Dark
Two
Crystal
dark memories.
memory number one is the first time I became aware of the Dark Crystal was at the McDonald's in Gardner, Massachusetts,
Hmm.
because they had like a TV set up for some reason, and we went in there to like get a snack after school,
Hmm.
and the Dark Crystal was on that TV. And I had no idea what it was. I'm like, I don't really care for this weird McDonald's movie. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be until years later that I realized, it's a Jim Henson like vehicle and all that. And I
Yeah.
still have never seen it. And number two is I feel like I should change the names for the sake of history, like to protect the innocent. But a certain brother friend dated a certain girl who we both worked at Blockbuster. All three of us worked at Blockbuster together.
Hmm.
And after their first date, he compared her to, it's not the Slee Stack, the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal.
The Skeksis, the big bads of the whole series. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Prominent noses, right? Yeah, he called her a
Yeah.
Skeksis.
Yeah.
That's what he said to her. He
Uh,
said, "You remind me of the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal." And the fact that they're married with a child now, that really love has to exist, right? If I had to go fight the Majestic, a la American Dad, I guess I would point at, "You remind me of the Skeksis from Dark Crystal. 16 years later, we got a baby."
Yeah. I don't even know what a romantic human being that person must be.
Yeah, I gave enough clues if you know me. And I can confirm the identity afterwards off mic for you, Sejohn.
Oh, I have a pretty good idea who know exactly who it is.
Yeah, no, I would hope so. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I was working at Walmart when Mirror Mask came out, and there was a lot of talk about from people that it was going to be a secret Dark Crystal sequel. So I've
Weird,
seen
'cause
Mirror Mask,
I would think more Labyrinth than Dark Crystal, but that's yeah. I
but
mean,
a talk of a Dark Crystal sequel goes back as far as I can remember. Goes
uh-huh.
back at least as far as you remind me of a Skeksis.
Yeah, no, it's something that people have kind of always latched onto because it's kind of in a lot of ways it's the Henson Company's opus. You know, I wouldn't necessarily point specifically to Jim Henson because there's so many things that he wanted to do. The Dark Crystal is just one of I think collaboratively with every person in that business. The Dark Crystal is what they like is the perfect like emblematic piece of art that they ever created. Like you want to know anything about the Henson Company, you start with the Dark Crystal, because it is heavily influenced by oh, I'm not going to remember the artist. Frond, the guy that he drew, famous for drawing elves and fairies, and they've become pretty much like the quintessential like versions of those types of creatures, trolls, orcs, that sort of
Yeah, I
thing.
think it's
And so
Froud, Frud.
Froud's Book of Fairies and Froud's Book of Orcs, I think, are the two
Yeah.
different book. Yeah, so like he's the influence for all of the characters in the Dark Crystal, Skeksis included. But the Gelflings are the like the main like protagonist group that you're following both in the movie and in the show. So just to give a little bit of a rundown of plot because I know not everybody's like invested in it or gets what's going on, but in the Dark Crystal back in 1987, 89, I'm a little fuzzy on that.
84.
84.
Yeah.
Phew, man, even older than I thought. So yeah, so Dark Crystal back then is takes place at a world at the end of its life. Essentially, there's literally only 10 Skeksis left. There's only 10 wizards left. Those are the good and evil of the world, right? And then there's like as far as Gelfling go, there's like one clan left or something like that. It's there's nobody left on Earth essentially, and the entire thing is that there has been a shard of the crystal the crystal a shard of the crystal has been missing and you know for decades if not like centuries. I forget what the full timeline is, but obviously young Gelfling character comes upon it and becomes the hero of the day and unites the crystal, saves the world, right? Along the way you get introduced to some of the most intricate, beautiful, and like defining characters for like the Henson Company. One of them is the mystic, the one-eyed mystic, who is a huge hit from that movie. The wizards are, if you saw them, if you saw the puppetry for the wizards, you'd instantly recognize them. I think they used to like cut to them on like Muppet Babies and things like that. Like I remember when I was a kid, they'd show up in places. And in terms of Skeksis and stuff, they like haunt my nightmares. They are some of the most terrifying creatures I've ever seen like brought to life, right? So everybody's been aching for a sequel, aching for years, trying to figure out like what is the world after, like once the world gets saved, and they have to and they wanted to see essentially that world brought to life. Well, I think the reason why we haven't ever really seen one is as many times as I'm sure somebody's tackled that concept, it's such a it would diminish from the ending of that first movie. Like that movie is so much about like rebirth and life that when they bring the world back to do anything beyond that, it seems almost kind of counter to what that whole movie is about,
If I may
right?
interrupt or
Hmm.
interject, Neverending Story Part 2 and 3.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the Neverending Story, it has a kind of perfect ending.
Right.
And then you have those two that just take
They're
it
different
away.
movies.
They cheapen it.
But
Yeah.
yeah. They have to be by their nature completely different films than what the first one is about. And yeah, for sure, perfect example, man. And so what they've done is this is actually a prequel series, and what this is the Great War that leads to basically the nothingness on the Earth and the idea of like the crystal, what the crystal meant before and why it is still revered even at the end of the world and all that. And so it's beautiful. But the really interesting thing about it, and the thing that I was worried I was going to struggle with, but the more I watch it, the more actually like into I am, is how much CG is now enveloped into the puppetry. I won't say that it diminishes the puppetry now. Now that I've seen it, like I can like without fear be like, no, the puppetry is still super important. Like this could not exist without the puppets. My fear was it was going to be so much CGI that what was the point of even bothering with physical puppets? But they don't do that. It's a total swing in the other direction. Everything is handcrafted first and then simply just like layered over or cleaned up with CGI. And there's even a bunch of like behind the scenes stuff that's available up on Netflix too to watch, which is super interesting. And it gets real deep into how they would build things and then what they would do is with the CGI later is add detail or things like that. Just gorgeous work all around. And so it's just phenomenal. It's just phenomenal watching this world that like it doesn't counteract anything in the original. It pays such respect to it. It's really joyous. Like there's really not a stitch of it that I feel is like you know, it it feels timeless, just like the original feels timeless to me. And maybe that's because it came out before I was even born, so it is in a sense timeless for me. Like I literally can't put it in a place, like because the first time I saw it, it was already 10 years old, right? So like there's this weird timelessness to that story that they're able to recreate in this series, and it's just gorgeous.
That's exciting. I'm really happy to hear that you enjoy it, and not just enjoy it, but have allowed it to consume your life the way that you have.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize how really kind of into it I was going to get even when I first watched it because I was enjoying it. And then what it became was like, having it on in the background because it is so visually pleasing and so easy to like jump in and out of, again, visually, not necessarily story-wise. The story is actually super complex. That might be my only one complaint about it is that it took me two viewings to really map out like it's fucking straight up Game of Thrones at moments with the way the families interact and things. But anyway, but the cast is also phenomenal on it. It's got Jason Isaacs, it's got Taron Egerton, it's got Simon Pegg, fucking at some point Andy Samberg shows up. Like he plays a very ostracized Skeksis, and it's kind of hilarious actually. Like it's very weird. Bill Hader has a character in it. Oh man, it's just it it's clear that there's a love behind every piece of it, which is what you could see in the original movie too, because for them it was such like a proof of concept for what they as a group could do. So like it feels like that team coming back together in a lot of ways, and it's really heartwarming.
Yeah, especially when you consider that the baby that was conceived during the Dark Crystal and then played the baby in Labyrinth is a like puppets creator and supervisor on Age of Resistance.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Toby Froud, which I believe his father is the Froud of Froud's Fairies and Orcs.
That makes total sense, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, there's a world that is created not just on screen by that movie. There is a world also created off screen that you can feel and sense, and I can't think of another movie that really does that so well.
Spoken like someone who didn't see the Happy Time Murders. No, it just seems like now we have both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people were like, how did Jim Henson's son do this?
Well, and I think what a lot of people forget is the kind of stuff that the Hensons have always done that weren't the Muppets, and I think that's one of the key things that Dark Crystal succeeds in is letting you watch a Henson movie without once thinking, I wish this was the Muppets. There's never a moment where you miss Fozzie or Kermit because it's not that world, right? Whereas when you watch something like Happy Time Murders, I can easily be like, oh, it'd be great if just like Big Bird walked by in the background. Like he totally could exist in this world. And it feels like you got to separate them. You got to keep them separated.
You gotta keep them separated.
The crawdad.
I'm gonna call the crawdad.
Oh man, but yeah, like so I've just been kind of falling into this stuff with the Dark Crystal. There's been a whole bunch of other Netflix stuff that's been like consuming me. I'm getting ready for Disenchantment season or part 2 to come out, whatever. So I've been rewatching that. I've been getting into there's this really 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 weird Japanese claymation show called Rilakuru and Karu, and it is about this woman who works in an office and her life is depressing to like. I mean, it's like she
Don't
really is
sugarcoat
like.
it. Like, be honest.
Yeah, no. I mean, well, what's weird is like she is clearly meant to be a metaphor for just pure depression. Like there are things that just happen that just ruin her day, and like she can't get out of moods. She gets into funks. She skips work because of it. That sort of thing. So to counter like what's going on, counter to her is she lives with three these two bears and a mouse, or two bears and a bird. It's a little hard with the puppetry for me to quite figure it out. But they force her to do things like they make her get up and cook. They make her to they take her to the market, so she has to walk and do these things. So like they're very clearly like a metaphor for like fighting the depression. I've been trying to figure out what they mean, because the littlest bear clearly looks like it's just a teddy bear come to life, and like the bird mouse paper thing that like changes shape and stuff like that is clearly like fake, right? Because it's magical in a lot of ways. The one thing I can't figure out is the biggest bear is about the size of a small child and has a zipper on the back of his bear, like what would essentially be suit. The other one doesn't. So I'm trying to figure out. They never reveal who's in it. Like they never show that, but there is a moment or two where he removes the suit because it needs to get washed or something. But they very purposely, like he goes behind a curtain so you don't see him, that sort of thing. It's very deliberate in the way that it's making me try to question like what's going on there. I just can't figure out the mystery, as it is driving me fucking wild.
That sounds crazy.
It is really
what that
well.
sounds.
And then on top of all of that, the entire concept of it, from like a soundscape perspective, is very ASMR. Like it's very, very low levels. Not much happens. There are exciting moments, like she gets nervous because she there's cars on the road, so the car noise gets a little loud for a moment. But other than that, it's usually like running water, or wind blowing, like very, very low level stuff. And then the whole time you're just watching this thing and you're just trying to figure out, is that her kid? Is this how he deals with depression? Is by putting this, or is she imagining something? Like what is going on? It's very, very, very weird, and I don't know. I don't know how much of the weirdness is supposed to be drawing me in, and how much of the like metaphor is supposed to be drawing me in. But I can't get to the metaphor if I can't get past the weirdness.
That seems like a real pickle. I'm not even like, that seems like a real pickle.
It's a very bizarre show, and part of it could be that I'm not. The show is 11-minute like shorts, right? And so I can't even tell you if I've actually watched the whole series yet, because I always just have it on and then I go and I do stuff. So maybe I've missed like an episode where they finally explain it, but I'll tell you this: they do not explain it, at least in the first half of that series.
How would I find this? What would I type into my Netflix search bar?
Rila, hold on one second. I probably have it literally up in front of me.
This is me vamping.
No, you don't even have to vamp. Oh. It's Rila Kuma, so it's Rilakkuma, Rila.
Okay.
And Karu is spelled just like Karu syrup, essentially.
Well, Kuma, right? Rilakumu or Kuma?
Kuma.
Kuma is bear in Japanese.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tekken. So,
yeah,
that's something.
Yeah, and so Karu is the woman, and Rilakuma is the big bear. But so what does Rilak mean? Because like, does it mean bear suit? Does it mean bear boy? What does it mean?
I don't know. It could mean real bear.
It's a real bear. He's just putting on a bear suit.
It's like, it's finally the sequel to Lars and the Real Girl nobody wanted. Did you ever see Lars and the Real Girl? That's my segue.
It's hard not to see a Ryan Gosling pick when it comes out, no matter how bizarre it is.
Yeah, that's one that I was hanging out with some people, and they're like, this movie, I heard it was hilarious. And they put it on. And, yeah, I didn't say anything. I just kind of like, I know what this movie is, but I'm going to be quiet. I had never seen it. I just worked at video stores when it came out. And we watched about 40 minutes of it before the girl I was with was like, I'm stopping this. This is weird. And I'm like, that's fine.
This wasn't a romping good time. I don't know what you thought it was going to be, guys. Oh, man. Yeah, he does his odd things now and then, like Only God Forgives, which was his follow-up to Drive, right?
Yes. That's, damn.
Yeah.
Nice Only God Forgives pull.
I very much enjoy that movie. I could not tell you a stitch about what the fuck happens in it. I just remember it being visually one of the like coolest movies I'd ever seen.
I gotta see Drive. There's my There's my
Drive
confession.
is visually awesome and has a good story. I think that dude's problem is since then he has not been able to put together like a good solid story.
I'm sorry. Neon Demon. Watch it, live it, love it.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
No, I have not personally seen it specifically because it didn't come out anywhere around here.
Oh, but it's on
It
Amazon. It's an
died before I got
Amazon
out this one.
movie. So if you
Oh,
got
is it?
Prime, you can watch it right now.
All right.
Probably in 4K. Even if
He
you
had
don't have a
another one,
4K
Neon Demon
TV.
and Only God Forgives, though, didn't he?
What?
Is Neon Demon the one with Doctor Doom? Not no Green Goblin there.
What? No.
No, he had one with him too. I think at some
Yeah.
point, maybe it was.
That's that's the devil, the sex one. Is it the sex
Yeah.
one that we're talking about?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
No. Forget all that. Just the Neon Demon is such a good movie. I mean, there are people who are mad at me for telling them to go see it, and then they saw it in theaters, and they were like, "I can't believe you told us to see that movie," but then they wouldn't shut up about it. So I'm like, you guys can say you hate it as much as you want. You liked the movie. Oh, the Neon Demon is awesome. It's got that girl, that blonde girl. I can't think of her name, but she's got those
Dakota
big
Fanning, right?
doe eyes. I think Dakota Fanning. I don't know. It's so good. And go watch the Neon Demon. That's the proper follow up to Drive, a film I've never seen in terms of the visual stuff. There we go. Who's in
Right.
Place Beyond the Pines?
That's
Bradley
Ryan Gosling
Cooper, right? Is
and
it-
Ryan Gosling.
Okay, and Ryan
with
Gosling?
with the tattoos. Yeah, Bradley Cooper plays the cop. Ryan Gosling plays the dude that like committed the crime or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He's like out of jail or something.
That's a good movie too. I like that movie a lot. That was one of those films that I was surprised I enjoyed. Because everybody
Fracture.
was like,
I mean, you want to start talking about some weird one-off like Ryan Gosling films that people like really should see. Fracture, I think, is like was groundbreaking for me. But what was the big one that he broke out for though? Was the one where he played the
Remember
substitute
the
teacher?
Titans. Oh,
No, no. The one where he played the school teacher, the rough neighborhood.
I don't
It's like-
know. What?
It's like yeah, it was like Sucker Punch or Rough Punch. It was something like that. But he ends up he lives in like a ghetto and like he's like an alcoholic and he plays a teacher. So of course everybody lost their shit because it's like the perfect like Oscar Beatty movie.
Are you sure it's not Remember the Titans? He's definitely in Remember the Titans.
I mean, Remember the Titans wasn't the reason everybody was like, this guy can act.
I know. He's one of those ones you're like, oh God, Ryan Gosling? What are you doing in this movie?
I mean, like, lest we forget Young Hercules. I mean, you want to talk about where he really broke out.
I don't know that show.
Young Hercules?
Isn't it just
love that
Hercules? What is Young Hercules?
Young Hercules was Hercules, except he was like a teenager. So basically doing the same Kevin Sorbo shit, except it was Ryan Gosling that played him.
That can't be real. That's like all of my dreams come true.
Yeah, man. He was also supposed to be young Indiana Jones, I think, at some point. I don't know if that ever happened.
Man. Was there a Young Indiana Jones show, or is it just talked about?
Well, he's in the movie, but I don't think there's ever a show. I think it was one of those things where there's books, there's tons
There's
of books.
There's a bunch of books.
There was a.
I think
was-
it was
I
like a
think it might have
one-off
been-
Fox show. Like,
I was gonna say like a made-for-TV PBS movie or something. But now we need to definitely look into that. Man, young versions of like old heroes though never really sits well with me. Like James Bond Jr., which I guess isn't really
not
accurate because he
a
was
young
technically
James Bond. It's
not
his
technically a James
nephew.
Bond, right?
It's his nephew, but it's definitely really his kid. He just pretends to be his uncle. That show was weird. Like Odd Job wore all neon colors.
Yes, it is a very bizarre show.
And like Q had a kid who was friends with James Bond Jr. Like, I don't know James Bond's life, right?
Mhm.
Outside of womanizing, poor hand-to-hand combat, and saving the world.
I'm sorry. Can we should actually hold on a second. We gotta talk about this.
Oh, okay.
Is Ryan Gosling the new like George Clooney, like Brad Pitt of our time, like can do no wrong, like
Probably.
no
That
because I'm just
sounds
looking
very
at his
believable, actually.
I'm looking at his movie list. This is not in any way in any type of time order because for some reason Google's not putting it that way. But we're talking about the guy that was in The Notebook. I mean, he was also in Blade Runner 2049, which by all accounts is like an actually like good sequel in a world where like the Terminator movies had come out and sunk that franchise.
I love
But-
all of the Terminator sequels. I am not sorry about it. I am seeing Dark Fate day one.
Well, that is, yes, Dark Fate looks phenomenal.
So
but
did
as
Genesis. So did Genesis.
Genesis looked phenomenal as well, and then it wasn't when I went to it.
We don't know. It could look really good, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a good movie, Sejohn.
Right, but I'm saying I can understand your excitement about Dark Fate. Like I wouldn't knock that I like at all. But Genesis, you can't tell me retrospectively that Genesis was worth our time.
Oh man, poor Jai Courtney.
Blue Valentine. He also did like some weird. He did like the Ides of March and the Nice Guys, right? Like,
I love the Nice Guys. I have the poster in my room.
He's in The Big Short. I mean,
he does
Half
a lot.
Nelson. That was the one. Half Nelson is the
Half
one.
Nelson. Okay. Oh, I know Half Nelson. Now that you say the title.
Yeah. Yeah, he's in a Brooklyn school, and he's well liked by his students and colleagues, and he secretly spends his evening hopping bars and getting high. Yeah.
So he's a teacher.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't mean to be rude, but
yeah, but he's a bad teacher, Devon. That's what makes the movie so interesting.
He's Cameron Diaz. I would love to see Ryan Gosling playing Cameron Diaz. Our sex tape is in the cloud. Oh my god!
You ever want to see him play a murderer? He plays a very good murderer in Murder by Numbers.
I believe that because he's on the cover.
It's weird that you get to. It's rare that you get to see like the pretty boy get to go do like the bad guy thing. Has George Clooney ever done the bad guy thing?
He was in Intolerable Cruelty.
He's not the bad guy in Intolerable Cruelty, though.
He kind of is. He's not.
Isn't that like
not like the guy. They're like mean to each other. That whole movie is him and Catherine Zeta-Jones being mean to each other.
It's them hate fucking each other the whole time, though.
Yeah,
like, yeah
but they do mean things to each other. That's semi-villainous.
Let me put it this way. I will give it to you that he is not a great person in that movie. If that's the worst he's ever gotten in his career, like that's not murdering people in a dime store novel. Like Murder by Numbers is a phenomenal movie, and I feel like I picked it up at a fucking airport to read on the plane. Like that is the kind of movie that is. Like, and Ryan Gosling is in it and steals that movie as far as I'm concerned. He's basically playing like a separate piece, but if they were psychopaths.
That's pretty solid what you just did there.
Yeah,
thank you for that a separate piece reference.
Oh man, he's got some really weird credits the further you go back, though. Man, yeah. He's apparently in a movie called Frankenstein and Me, probably some made-for-TV movie.
That sounds amazing. I want it to be like Roger and Me, but Frankenstein is Roger.
It's got a 5 out of 10.
I mean, that means it's not half bad.
Okay, this movie, it's not half good either.
Thank you, Sejohn.
When a Frankenstein dummy falls off the back of a carnival truck, a 12-year-old fantasizes about bringing the monster to life.
Is he water for elephants?
I don't know, but there's a fantastic Japanese cover of this movie. I have fallen down a rabbit hole with Ryan Gosling.
All right, well, I'm going to try to pull you out. And you've mentioned Japan a lot. And I'd like to talk about a game that came out only, 4 days ago?
Yeah.
And I'm only about 40% through. But I'm very excited to talk about it. And it's River City Girls.
Hey.
River City
I'm glad
Girls.
you're enjoying it.
Oh, what? Did you work on it? That made it sound like you worked on it.
No, it's one of those games that is rife for problematic assholes on the internet to come out on.
Oh, so it's a video game?
Well, yeah, fair enough. But I mean, we're talking about this is the one that's River City Ransom. It's the same guys, isn't it?
Well, they now own the thing. Like Arc System Works owns it. They acquired Double Dragon and River City Ransom.
But it's the first real sequel we've gotten in a while.
It's the first official sequel. Yeah. Because there was a kickstarted sequel in 2017 called River City Underground that I'd like to play, but it was $20 and I had to search the deepest, darkest recesses of the internet to find anything about it. Where River City Girls was the same price and it's got a bunch of press. And it feels like, in a lot of ways... Did you ever play Double Dragon Neon?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
That game's awesome. I freaking love Double Dragon Neon. It feels like they gave the Double Dragon Neon treatment to River City Ransom. In
River City Goils.
In River City Goils, yes.
Yeah, nice.
So
Awesome.
it's awesome. But I have a weird problem.
Yeah.
And it's a very strange problem, and it's something that like I don't know. It bothers me on a level that I think in just in the fact that I was unaware on some level, because in order to get excited for River City Girls, sorry,
What is this character?
it's Mrs. Garrett from Facts of Life. That's what it is. That's how she's Goyles. Nice what? That was a really good Mrs. Garrett what? High five from across the internet. High five from across the country. I played through River City Ransom and River City X, which is the Game Boy Advance remake of the game that kept some of the original thing. The biggest issue is localization in a game like River City Ransom, because in the Japanese version of it, their names are Kunio and Ricky, as opposed to Alex and Ryan, and they fight Yamada because he kidnapped Kunio's girlfriend, Mami. That's all stuff that happens in the Japanese version. In the American version, they are not dressed in like that classic school uniform from, like anime, like Yu Yu Hakusho. They're just dressed in like t-shirts and jeans. And they're running around beating up people.
They're like greasers. Like they turned him into basically like John Travolta and his gang, and like
yes, it's real weird. And they're just beating people up, like because this guy and Yamada becomes Slick. His name is Slick or Simon. Slick is his nickname. Simon is his real name, which is also hella confusing because when you get to him, he's like, Simon says it's time to die, and then you beat him. And it's like you defeated Slick, and I'm like, I'm confused. River City Ransom, what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, and that's why it lends itself to a bunch of the controversy that it's had over its time. One of the reasons why it's had so hard to kind of secure down this particular IP in a lot of ways is, on the one hand, it's extremely popular, and on the other hand, it's extremely controversial. It's one of the first games to get like banned by places and talked about as like the devil being in the children and all that stuff. I mean, if you think about it, you're looking at early prototypes for what eventually becomes things like Grand Theft Auto and stuff, right? Like you have these gang member dudes going around just beating up other gang member dudes with various weaponry that they can pick up in the environment and things like that. It's a very interesting game because it is so definitive and in retrospect so bland. I feel like it's hard for me to remember elements of River City Ransom fondly, but I can definitely remember the game itself as being like important and fun.
I can't believe that I beat it this year. That's what I'm going to say, because so much of it is go to room, beat everybody up, maybe a boss shows up. Maybe a boss doesn't show up. Maybe you have to go to a room, an arbitrary room, and then return to a room for a boss to show up. Like, it is not user-friendly at all. And you're not wrong, it's kind of bland. But it has thousands of sequels in Japan. Like, it is one of the longest-running things. Like, Super Dodgeball is in the same series as River City Ransom.
No
Ditto,
shit.
like Crash and the Boys, and all of these other things. They're all part of the Kunio-kun series, where where in America we got River City Ransom, River City X, the Game Boy Advance remake, and then we got River City Rivals on 3DS to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the game. But like that's all just the same game.
Yeah. Just reskinned or cleaned
up,
right?
with different paint jobs. So,
it's funny because it makes me think of a lot of older Japanese games that became so important. And I mean, Mario is actually a really good example of this. You don't just have Mario games; you also have Mario Kart, you have Mario Tennis, you have you know what I mean? Mario, Super Smash Brothers, like everything that kind of comes off of that. That is kind of the model, like, right? Is like build the character that the kid wants, and then like make a billion different games with just that character. Who cares if they don't flesh out, right? And it's funny that you see that definitely come over with that one thing, but we like refuse to let anything else work that way, I guess.
Yeah, it's very strange. But so I now know way too much about River City Ransom lore and the Kunio-kun lore because I went down a deep hole on the internet today. And the reason why I went down that deep hole is Dale and I have been playing it co-op because beat 'em ups are like the one game that Dale will play with me co-op, probably because like we learned it in the arcade. So like it's not like a platformer or something like that where we will get mad at each other. A beat 'em up, I'll stay on the right side of the screen, you stay on the left side of the screen. We can coexist. We got this.
I do not play by those kinds of rules, by the way. You guys would hate me playing my beat 'em ups with you.
No,
I run around like crazy.
You're allowed to run around like crazy. I'm talking about how Dale and I have made beat 'em ups work for us. So that our loving sibling relationship can continue.
Yeah.
And we don't beat each other up in real life. So we're playing through the game, and the second boss is Yamada. Now, I did not realize that he had been renamed to Slick in America, and he kicked our ass for like a good 45 minutes. Like, it was not an easy boss fight. And maybe we were underpowered because we had kind of been rushing through places. We were not really focusing on leveling up our characters. And Dale, in like one of the greatest Dale Decker video game quotes ever, said, "This is not a second boss. This is like maybe a third boss. Maybe a third boss." They like really turned things up. So I'm looking for him today on the internet to see if like maybe we just screwed something up, like we missed something with the character. But no, everybody kind of agreed that he's a huge difficulty curve upwards from the first boss.
Yeah.
But then I found Yamada's like fan wiki page and that he had been renamed to Slick. And I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Because he's the final boss from the original game. So
right,
like,
so that's why
he's not the
big
second
bad.
boss. He's the final boss. But where it sticks with me and where it comes down to like I have sort of a problem with this is very obviously meant to be a sequel to River City Ransom.
Okay.
In the title, calling it River City Girls, and the fact that the sprites in the tutorial are the Alex sprite from River City Ransom, specifically in the white shirt and the jeans.
Okay.
So, like, it is doing it, but then all of the characters who existed before in River City Ransom have their Japanese names. So, like, you don't have those, like, little nostalgia moments where you're like, oh, it's Alex and Ricky who are dating Kyoko and Misako.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then there are, like, these two weird girls that, like, you run into, and the whole joke is that they think they're dating your boyfriends. But the reason why they think that is because it's Mami and Hasabe renamed to Cindy and Roxy in the original River City Ransom, and they were Alex's and Ryan's girlfriends in that game.
I mean, they're at least acknowledging it there. I think what it's coming down to is it seems like that a lot of those kinds of touches are really being meant for the people that have like gotten this deep into River City Ransom and have been there for decades, man.
Right.
It seems like this is maybe a game being geared towards those super fans that have been around since day one.
And it's just like so weird.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, that's a really good reference that I just didn't get.
Fan
I
service
played
going
the game.
over our heads and being a little absurd.
It's just so, and then like when I found that Yamada was Slick, I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. And then like semi-spoilers for River City Girls, but it's not. He's the second boss. He uses telekinesis to like throw stuff at you.
Okay.
In the Japanese version of River City Ransom, he used telekinesis, but they took it out of the American version of the game. So like, it's all references to the Japanese version of this game, but it's being trumpeted as a sequel to River City Ransom.
Man,
it's just
what came first,
so
River City Ransom or Big Trouble in Little China?
Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just wondering
Yeah.
if some of the Japan, because that movie was a huge hit in the East. I'm just wondering if maybe some of it is influenced by a lot of the stuff in that, because you're describing the stuff in the Japanese version, and all I can think of are moments in Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, no, I get it. I completely understand it. But then I think that they look at a game like Kunio-kun and they're like, oh, we need to make this an American version of Big Trouble in Little China. Because, like, as much as they become greasers, like, Alex's outfit That's the Pork Chop Express right there.
Yeah.
Coming to get you. I can't think of his character's name at all.
In
Big Trouble in Little China. Kurt Russell's
no,
character's name.
Kurt Russell, because he's not the main character. I always want to just think of him as Friendo. I don't remember his name either. Hold
He's
on.
so good. I feel kind of invincible. Yeah, me too.
Oh man, that fucking drink.
Such a good movie.
Jack Burton.
Jack Burton on
That's
the
why you
Pork
can't
Chop
think of it, though.
Express.
It's the most. It's the most like.
It's the most American name.
Yeah.
But yeah,
fuck.
so River City Girls, absolutely love it. I was
cool.
playing a little bit tonight before we recorded, and I got to a very awesome cameo that I'm not going to spoil on the show, but since you've played Double Dragon Neon, I'm excited to tell you afterwards.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'll tell you who the Sexy Skexy was and the cameo in River City Girls.
I can't wait.
It's going to be exciting.
Oh man.
But yeah, that's been the big stuff in my life, is playing this game, watching Adam Sandler movies. I'm still designing with a lot of women.
Nice.
I don't know. Oh, I have one other thing. Do you have anything else to add before I transition into this last
I was gonna
cool
say
thing?
I'm just kind of waiting on Borderlands coming out at the end of the week. That's really why I haven't done too much else in like getting invested in anything, because God knows how much investment I may or may not put into that. Right now, it's a freaking crapshoot.
Right. Well, that's sort of what I was going to transition to.
Yeah.
Is that
well, before we get into that, then just in my transition time, in an attempt to find a game that I was willing to walk away from, shall we say, I think I have found the perfect game in Darksiders 3, the free movie, the free game this month. Jeez, all over the place.
This movie,
this free movie day on PlayStation. I have found myself very much enjoying the time that I have spent with it, but also not being disappointed to have to put it down to go do other things. The first couple of Darksiders games, I couldn't put down. Darksiders 1 especially, like I remember straight up like not getting sleep at nights for when I was playing that game through the first time on Xbox. I think the first time I played it 360. But anyway, I got there eventually with 2 once I really kind of realized what game it was and how to play it. We talked about this before, that I wasn't really sure how that type of game was ever really played beforehand, and Darksiders 2 actually taught me a lot about that style of RPG, and it's awesome now. Like I like going back to that one too. 3 is not grabbing me at all in the same way, and there's a lot to be said about that. I'm almost disappointed that it wasn't a main thing for me to talk about, but I don't think it's gonna be, because it's just not grabbing me. And maybe it will. Maybe something will happen. Maybe a year from now when I'm bored and I want to play something, maybe it'll catch me. But right now it's not doing it.
That's interesting. I feel like that's why it came out to nothing.
Yeah.
Like whatever the opposite of thunderous applause is.
Yeah, it's not a bad game. So like it almost wasn't worth talking about, because like there's really nothing to complain about. It's serviceable. It's perfectly serviceable. It does what it does well. It just doesn't do anything new, exciting, different, or really worth your time if there's a better game out there. Borderlands 3, whether it rises or crashes, is going to be the game to play this week for sure.
Yeah. I don't disagree. And you say that, like, I mean, Darksiders, that first Darksiders game was like a revelation. Because it's the first good 3D Zelda game as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I can talk to you about Wind Waker, but even that in a lot of ways doesn't feel like a true Zelda game from what I judge it as.
It also came out around all of the Twilight Princess nonsense of everybody really craving an older Zelda and that not being a thing yet, and then hints of Twilight Princess, and then Darksiders came out and really kind of blew all that idea out of the water, because it was like, oh, we don't even have to wait for a Nintendo game to do this anymore.
Right. And then the way that you are describing your feelings about Darksiders 3 is how I felt about Darksiders 2, where like nothing really grabbed me the way that the first Darksiders did.
For sure.
I mean, and it sucks that that's what happened. And what I really am upset about is Strife is going to get a game, but he can't stand on his own. Like, it's a co-op with War. It's like a two-player co-op
is it going to be a dual
game.
stick Diablo? Yeah. And in a weird way, I kind of understand why that genre of game can't be a single player. Like, I get that, but then maybe don't do that genre. I don't know. I'm totally excited for the fourth one. That's like I said, this third one is not disappointing in any way. It doesn't make me like upset at the series or think like it's the end of Darksiders. Quite the opposite. I mean, like I think that they made a very good bridge game to keep the series afloat and in everybody's mind till they do something better. Now, the important thing is that they've got to do something better next time. If they don't, then it's all for naught.
Right.
You know?
I mean, I guess I just wish that Strife got his own game before the Defenders-esque Darksiders game where
Now,
you get
would,
to play as the family together.
That would, yeah, right. I'm totally down for that. Have that be Darksiders 5, where they all come together and you play a Diablo-style game with them. Like, that makes so much more sense. And, you know, maybe that was always the plan, and maybe this is them just scrambling just to do something with it now that they've... Because, you know, the way that THC fell apart, the way that THQ, the way that THQ fell apart, and the way that, like... THQ Nordic kind of built itself up, but now we know that there's a lot of problems there. Like they're not the bastion that we wanted them to be for the savior of all THQ games, because like it turns out they're a bunch of assholes and running their workers into the dirt. But you know, like it's just it exists in a weird time because people really do want those games, but I don't think they need them right now.
I don't know. I think it's unfortunate that type of game seems to have like died in favor of the live services game. Mm-hmm. And the real thing is that if you want that type of game, you play it on the Nintendo Switch, because you have games like Astral Chain that sort of feel Darksider-esque. I mean, I haven't played it, but it reminds me of it sort of with the visuals, if that makes sense. Ow, my arm. But yeah,
did they put War Mastered Edition out on the Switch yet? Because I'd be surprised if they hadn't.
Of what?
War Mastered Edition is the special edition of Darksiders 1.
Oh yeah, it came out. It's notorious or infamous because it was the only Switch game that was released with a black spine initially instead of the red spine. So yeah. And that's a game that I would get on that system. I mean, I really liked the first Darksiders. It's just one of those things that's weird. And maybe what they learned was you don't do an Iron Fist movie, you do Heroes for Hire, and War is the Luke Cage.
Yeah.
So, like, try and balance that out.
Which is a shame, because I like War, but after playing 2 through twice now, I think Death is a much more interesting character, well-built character, I should say.
That's why Death is Daredevil and Fury is Jessica Jones. Keep up.
Fantastic, man. But yeah, no, so Borderlands 3, end of the week, though.
Well, yeah, and the other thing I was going to say, those Super Nintendo games, if you got Switch Online, a lot of people have been coming to me like, how can I make these more fun? Because you play them all the time. What do you do to make them more fun? And really, if you're just looking for like a gap game, those are perfect. Mm-hmm. But yes, so the end of the week, Borderlands 3 comes out. What does that mean if you're a fan of the Say Report and Say Report Jr.?
Well, I think it's going to mean, Devon, that you're going to have to come explore the Borderlands with us.
Yes, that's very true. It's for real confirmed that myself, Sejohn, and Dale, half of Say Report Jr., are going to be there on Friday, diving into this brand new world.
And we're still working on the fourth.
Right.
That's not written off yet, but at least 3 of us will be there. So It'll be a team.
And it should be fun. I'm excited. You really turned me on to those games, and, you know, I'm just going to let you guys set the pace.
I appreciate that, and I think we're going to let Dale set the pace, I think is what we're going to do.
That sounds like the best way to do it, because we both play that game very differently, and if Dale sets the pace, it'll work out.
And we have to be fair here. You've never played a game with one of these games with me fresh. Well, except for Lilith, but even at that point, we were in such a rhythm. But this will be me going into this game fresh as well. I won't have anywhere near the knowledge that I have of Borderlands 2, which is going to be interesting.
But I play every game the same way. I want to be done with you.
I need to get back to Link to the Past, please. Thank you.
I like that game, though. Oh, God, Link to the Past. Oh, I'm so excited.
We are going to have some discussions about Link to the Past, because I've been replaying it. You mentioned the Super Nintendo stuff. I've only gotten to the old man. So, like, I've got some... I'm
the old man near. On the mountain, Gary?
Yeah. I'm not deep in it at all. So...
I beat it the day that it came out on Switch. I was so happy.
Not surprised. Now, Super Mario Brothers, that I got halfway through in 3 hours. I was very happy with myself.
That's cool.
All right, man.
All right. So come join the Borderlands with us. We'll be on early Friday. Like, I want to say maybe 8 a.m. Eastern. Is that, like, too crazy a time?
That's what I'm hoping for. The only thing that's going to get in the way of this, and I'm just putting this warning out there because I think everyone should keep it in mind, is that if there's some ridiculous day one patch and we get screwed downloading it, we have no way of really knowing that. We're not deep in it, so we don't know if suddenly there's going to be something out like that.
Yes,
But yeah,
wrong.
that's the plan.
Yeah, so the plan is 8 a.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/The Say Report. Come by and join us as we explore the brand new. It's not Pandora, right? Based on the end of the game.
I don't know. That's what I mean. I really have no idea what we're getting into here. I'm thinking we're going to see more of Pandora than we thought, but I could be totally wrong.
Yeah,
don't know.
I don't know. I was excited at the prospect of other worlds and other vaults.
Yep, and it would be the perfect thing for them to fuck up from the first step. So let's see.
Yeah, you have to stay on Pandora, and then all of those DLC. So we'll find out. But
planet.
But until then, if you'd like to talk to me about River City Ransom or Kunio-kun, or, you know, get some tips and tricks on how to make old Super Nintendo games feel fun and new and different, you can find me on Twitter at Devon D. Decker.
And if you want to join me in protesting the EU to ban loot planets, you can find me at Siege versus the World.
What are loot planets?
Bigger than loot boxes.
Bam! All right, let's turn it over to the Chuck to my Larry. Willie, take us.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so it's delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.